On your pledge to stop the boats, you told me last time that considerable progress had been made. So I'm sure you'll be disappointed by the figures for the first 3 months of this year. There's a 10% increase compared to 22 and 23. But what I want to ask you about is the Safety of Rwanda Bill, which obviously I think we're all clear is going to get royal assent fairly soon, and you can then start to put people onto planes and send them to Rwanda. So have you now got an airline that will be able to send people to Rwanda, or are you going to use the RAF?
The Home Office are making all the appropriate arrangements. There's a range of options that they're considering. I wouldn't expect me to get into the detail of those because they may well involve, as you would expect, commercial
well, we know
conversations.
It's costing £11,000 per
but I can say
individual.
The preparations are all being made and have been made for a while to operationalise the bill.
So you're not able to say if there's an airline or not?
So I wouldn't expect me to get into commercial conversations. But all the preparatory work to operationalise the bill has been in place for a while.
Okay, so over 33,000 people have arrived in the UK irregularly since the Illegal Migration Act came into force last July. So are you expecting to send all 33,000 people to Rwanda? Because obviously they can't make a claim for asylum in this country.
Yes, well, as you know, the bill has to get royal assent, and then subsequent to that, the bill has to be put in force, and there'll be choices about which cohorts to initially apply the policy to. There's a range of different options for that. That's all in the planning work that's being done. So
there's 33,000 in limbo. So I just want to be clear: are you expecting that group will go to Rwanda?
I said we've been. My general view, I probably wouldn't characterise it as being in limbo, is anyone who arrives here illegally should not be able to stay. That is the government's and my very clear position, and we will do everything that we can to remove them, either to their home country, if it's safe to do so, or a safe alternative like Rwanda. But so there's no limbo about it. Our intention is that everybody who arrives here illegally should be removed.
Well, they are in limbo at the moment because they can't claim asylum, and you're not able to tell me how many of the 33,000 you think will go to Rwanda. So my understanding of 33...
Well, because the IMA needs to be commenced for it to be enforced, but they are still they still come under the rules of the NABA, which also made the point.
No, these come under the rule of the Illegal Migration Act from the enactment in July. So these are 33,000 people who are in limbo. They can't claim asylum. They are waiting, I assume, to be sent to Rwanda. But I want to move on because I've got a couple of other questions. Could you just explain why number 10 blocked the reappointment of the independent Inspector of Borders and Immigration?
I don't believe that is the case. I think the Home Secretary addressed this in the House, and or either he or one of his ministers addressed this in detail in the House, and the report decision was made by the Home Office.
So number 10 wasn't involved. Okay. I mean, it seems to some people that David Neil was actually a whistleblower, wasn't he? That he took the action he did because 15 of his reports were in the Home Office, never seeing the light of day.
No, and I think the response to all those, I think he welcomed actually when he gave evidence, maybe to your committee, I think he welcomed the response to those reports having been published, and I think the remaining two are imminently to be published.
They are, yes.
For what time it is. So they're imminently to be published, and I said obviously the Home Secretary and his ministers have addressed this in detail in the House previously.
Two other things I just wanted to ask you very quickly. Do you agree that there is a moral case to support Lord Brown's amendment to the Safety of Rwanda Bill to ensure that Afghans who helped our armed forces in Afghanistan are not sent to Rwanda? Yes or no?
We have an existing scheme
to bring... It's not working though, is it? That's the problem.
Well, yes, it's brought thousands of people to the UK and under 3 different streams. And we, obviously, in the interest of time, we don't need to go over them all here, but there's 2 different schemes, there's multiple different strands, and we have brought thousands of people safely from Afghanistan to the UK to provide them with sanctuary. And that contributes to our overall numbers of around 500,000 people that we've welcomed to the UK through safe and legal routes over the past few years.
The highest group within the small boats at the moment are from Afghanistan, aren't they, at 20%? So there is an issue about why those schemes are not working. My very final question...
I just think on that doesn't mean the schemes are not working. It might just mean that there are many more people who would like to come to this country than we have the resources and the capacity to safely look
With the
after.
greatest
And I think you can see that.
Respect, Prime Minister. I don't think that's the view of most people looking at those schemes and how slow they've been. But I just want to ask...
But I don't think you can infer from that just because people are coming, the scheme isn't working. There's a limit to how many people we can take in this country, where we can house them and appropriately fund them. We've heard lots earlier from Clive about the pressures on local government.
Yeah,
ultimately,
so
much of the pressure from housing people falls on local
government.
government, and that's why we do have to be cognizant of the numbers.
My question was quite specific about the moral case for supporting those who'd helped British forces in Afghanistan. Talking of moral cases, my very final question, I just wanted to ask you, you've already accepted the moral case for compensation to be paid to the infected blood victims. But I just want to ask you this. Did your whips tell MPs last December that implementing Sir Brian Langstaff's infected blood compensation recommendations would actually mean no tax cuts would be in the budget? Is that what your MPs were told?
That's not something I'm aware of, but more generally I'm acutely aware of the strength of feeling on this issue and the suffering of all of those impacted by what is an appalling scandal. I've consistently acknowledged that justice should be delivered, and we're working very hard to put things right, and that's why the acceptance of moral case for compensation was made in October of 2022, and infected individuals and bereaved partners registered with the scheme received interim payments at that time, and I've provided evidence as well to the inquiry, and the ministers have made statements from the dispatch box about the things we're doing to provide psychological support services and appoint an expert group to advise the government on how to make informed choices in responding to the inquiry's report when we received it.
So the answer is no to my question. You didn't tell your MPs that?
That's not something I'm familiar with at all.
Okay, thank you.